Hey everybody, welcome to the Extreme Channel. My name is Mr. X. You're probably wondering, Mr. X, why are you wearing a shirt like that? Well, because I am hot and exhausted. Believe it or not, I've unboxed 3 statues today, and this one was the smallest.
That's what she said.
Oh, wait, she didn't say that. Hey, my name is Mr. X. Welcome to the Extreme Channel. We are giving away $1,000 statues to you guys. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey, thank you for tuning in. Today we are looking at Prime One Studios' Devastator statue. So this is a 1/3 scale DC character. Now this is their bonus deluxe edition, which means it has this little piece in the back, the kryptonite sphere. We're going to talk about it. So if you're unfamiliar, this kind of looks like Doomsday. That's because it kind of is. So there's this DC storyline called Dark Knight Metal, and Prime One Studio, along with some other licensed studio, has made all these characters from that storyline. Now, the concept of the storyline is pretty cool. So in it, in the normal universe, Bruce Wayne, Batman, finally kills Joker. But as Joker dies, he releases a toxin that turns him into the Batman Who Laughs. The Batman Who Laughs then connects with the god, and it's an evil god, who uses the multiverse to recruit all these different versions of Bruce Wayne that have had a different path in life. And during these paths, he usually gets the powers or merges with some other types of characters. So I've done tons of reviews on all these statues. This is the second to last one in the official line, and they have a few offshoot lines. But he's finally here, and he is the biggest one for sure. So in this particular storyline, Devastator, who's the character, is Bruce Wayne merged with Doomsday, the infamous DC Doomsday that killed Superman. And he's pretty much almost unstoppable. Now, the very unfortunate part of this whole Dark Knight Metal from DC Comics is it created all these awesome characters, but the whole Dark Knight Metal storyline is kind of blah, if you ask me, in my opinion. Although I love the fact it created these characters, which Prime One Studio has turned into awesome statues. So this is 1/3 scale, meaning to be 3 times bigger in real life. Now, if this looks really familiar, that's because Prime One Studio did a Doomsday statue. It's one of my favorite statues of all time. It was one of my first big videos on YouTube. I think it hit like 30,000 subs. And I haven't gone back to watch it, but it's probably cringeworthy, as some of you think my current videos are. But I'm going to set him right next to that. And if you want to see what that looks like, check out the Extreme Channel social media. Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. The link for that is in the description below. And not only am I going to post pictures on social media, but we're going to do a comparison video down the road. That's a good reason, if you like this stuff, to subscribe to the channel. But enough about that. Today is about Devastator. Let's talk about him. Let's review him, starting with the concept. So it's been a little bit since I've read the Dark Knight storyline, so I might miss some things because, like I said, frankly, the storyline wasn't that good. But you have a base, so it's almost a semi-museum style base, at least the sub-base right here. And then he's perched on top of an eagle or some type of bird. I don't know the significance of this. Maybe they're just trying to do a traditional Batman pose where he's always on top of a building, which is also indicative with the way his right foot is raised. You're going to see in a second. Now, one thing they've done is, Doomsday has this transformation where all these spikes come out, and they've made those spikes come out of the base. So logically, it doesn't make sense, but it does make for a much cooler base. And as you move up, Doomsday transformed from Batman. So not only did he transform, but it's almost like a Hulk transformation, so you see a lot of torn clothes. We assume Batman was in his bat suit for a few of the things you see. You see the cape on the back, and he is turned into Doomsday, which has this very hard rhino-like skin. Remember, Doomsday was actually Kryptonian, which is one of the reasons that he could actually beat Superman. So as you move up, the spikes are everywhere. He's a raging monster. He has a symbol on his chest, which is a little bit of a mix of the Dark Knight Metal symbol, a little bit of a mix of a Batman symbol, and a little bit of a mix of Devastator, which they also have that on the back of the base as well. But he's moving up. He's lunging forward. He just killed Superman or hurt Superman badly because he's holding his cape. He still has Batman's cape on the back because he transformed, and it's truly a gruesome, awesome piece. Now, in full disclosure, Prime One Studios has another statue, this one right here, where it's actually the beginning of the transformation, which I do have on order as well. So if you want to see that, again, make sure you not only like this video, but you sub to the channel and hit the bell notification. So I like a lot of things they did with this regarding the concept. It's a mix between Batman and Doomsday for sure. I like the spikes. I like the kryptonite spear here on the back. So I think the concept's a 4 out of 5. It's definitely a good one. Almost all of them are in this line, to be frank with you. Design, a few issues here. Biggest issue, it's way too fucking big.
That's what she said.
Speaking of which, let's get the dimensions now before we show the unboxing and assembly. So the widest point of the base is probably about 18 inches or so. The tallest part is probably where that spike is. Damn! Over 38 inches tall. And then the deepest part of the base is probably pretty similar. Yeah, it's about 16 inches. And of course, he juts out more than that. So the base is manageable. Most of the mass is from Devastator himself. So it's a big piece. Let's look at the unboxing and assembly. 3 giant heavy boxes. 2 were over 70 pounds. Standard foam. It did have an art box. I didn't look at it. So one box had the base and one other part. The other one, this was the light box here. And then the last box also had this hidden cape with the body pieces. Pain in the ass, and I'm going to have to take him apart to move him. He probably weighs 80, 90 pounds. But with that, you've probably seen some videos recently where I had the other statues I unboxed, and I put them together in their place simply because he was such a bitch. Now, there are some different display options. So obviously you can display him without the Superman cape, but it looks, kind of boring, and I like the color that it adds to it. But the material itself is really piss poor. Not only on the cape, but also the Batman cape on the back that's ripped in half. I like the concept of it, but the material's piss poor. The reason I'm leaving the Batman cape on is because it'll help differentiate him from Doomsday when I put him next to Doomsday. And I do have the slabs, matching slabs, with almost all of these Dark Knight metal pieces, because like I said, I really like the characters, so it's cool to get a 9.8 matching slab next to it. But there are 3 portrait options. Let's look at those. Your first one here, he's kind of baring his teeth, kind of smiling. It is neat, but I wasn't a huge fan. So the second one is one where his mouth is open. This one is a little bit more Doomsday than it is Batman, which I liked a lot. But this one, to me, very similar, but it looks more Batman-y than Doomsday. And again, I think that differentiates this statue a little bit. Now, in full transparency, all those switch-outs don't come with every version of this character. So there are actually 4 different versions. The base version didn't have Superman's cape, and it had 1 portrait. The next step up gave you the 3 different portraits. The step up after that gave you Superman's cape, and then the final step up also gave you the kryptonite spear in the back. So I would have liked to see some other arm switch outs. I think that's a little bit of a miss, but nothing that I can't get over. I don't understand the logo in the back here. What's the point of that? It's in the back, and why'd you put it there? I think that was a waste. I mean, if it didn't cost me any extra money, great. There is a tiny seam line in the portraits, but nothing worth crying over. So overall, I give the design a 3 out of 5. One of the reasons that it's not getting a really high score is it wasn't incredibly difficult. I think they should have done much better on the capes. That's really bothering me. And the portraits weren't crazy different. And as a reminder, 3 is not a bad score. All right, let's dive into the paint and sculpt of this. And this was a little bit harder for me because Prime One Studio 1/3 scale DC pieces, which is what this is the best in the industry. It's one of the best lines by any statue company. So I have a really high bar. So while this is still better than a lot of the competitors, I don't think it's as good as some of the other ones in this same space. And when I say space, I mean made by Prime One Studio. All right, so as we dive into the paint and sculpt, remember I already addressed what I thought of the capes in the design. Starting with the base, so I don't know what the eagle is. It could be a tribute to the Dark Knight Metal storyline. I think the god's name was, it was like Barbados. It wasn't spelled like Barbados, but that's how I pronounced it. That's what I read. So they have a nice museum style sub base down here. They should have done black, in my opinion, just to break up the monotony. I mean, they might have been targeting, hey, this is, top of the building like we talked about. But they should change up the color some. Now, it is different colors of black and gray. And then the horns that are coming out are almost look like tusks you'd see on an elephant. And I really like the coloring they did on that. That does help break it up. But still, it's a lot of gray considering we know that the character is gray as well, wearing gray clothes. So really quick on the spear, I'm disappointed that it's not a more translucent resin. It looks actually a lot better on camera than it does in real life, especially if you have bright lights shining on it. My phone that I use to film the close-ups is picking up more than it should, in my opinion. But the sculpt of the bird looks nice. Like I said, I don't know what it's a tribute to. As we look at him, one thing I really don't like on him is the logo here. Just looks kind of cheesy, in my opinion. I don't know if it's the color of white that they used, but just not a fan. I do like how, like we talked about, the bat symbol is kind of coming off that. Now his clothes, they look ripped and stretched, almost like you'd see like in a Hulk transformation statue. It looks weird. It doesn't look like actual clothes. It looks like something they just sculpted on the top. The pants look a lot better, as you see. And again, gray pants on a gray statue on a gray base, I think is just a little bit tough. But the musculature is fine. He's not over-roided out. You can see he does have some large biceps there. But I think the chest is probably the perfect size. And then the spikes coming out of him are different than the ground here. And I like that it's changed up different. And it's black, emphasis of Batman. And same thing with the portrait, which we're going to look at in a second. I love the black spikes coming out of, almost like Wolverine claws. Let's get some without some bright light on it. And then great, almost enamel-like feel on the toenails and fingernails. And that really decrepit rhino-like skin, just like the Doomsday statue has. But this one, I almost feel there's a little more humanism to it. And maybe that's because he was merged with Bruce Wayne. You can see the veins throughout, and again, different colors of shading. Almost a little bit of pink or red in there, depending on what you look at. I do love the portraits, though. We looked at them earlier, but just some close-ups. So you can kind of see the bat mask is more of that black color with the bat ears coming up. I think that's great. Really makes the statue, in my opinion. The portrait does. Obviously, when we get closer to the comparison video that we'll do with Prime One Doomsday, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, I think the paint and sculpt is nice. I wouldn't say this is their best work by any means. Prime One Studio 1/3 scale DC pieces where they knock it out of the park. So I would say this is better than average from most companies, but for Prime One Studio, I would just say it's good. Doesn't really blow my socks off with the paint and sculpt. And maybe that's because I've set such a high bar. And I apologize for the blurriness in this close-up video. I have no idea why it keeps doing that. But yeah, so I think if I was comparing this to normal statues, I didn't have such a high bar, I would be giving it higher marks. But hey, it's my ranking system and I can do whatever the fuck I want. All right, I'm going to give the paint a 3 out of 5. And again, I think it's just so monotonous, and I don't know if it's the paint that bothers me on the logo and the pants. I will give the sculpt a 4 out of 5. It's still done fantastic. Those spikes everywhere are great. Definitely above average. Now, was this worth it? So like I said, of the DX bonus version, so number 3 and number 4, so 4 included the Kryptonite Spear, they kind of merged those edition sizes together. They made 150 of those, and then they made 30 and 30 of the 2 lower end. So 210 they made, and the retail's right around $19.50. Plus, you have to pay shipping. Now, I like to go through Spec Fiction for a lot of different pieces, and I go through them because shipping is incredibly cheap and they give great customer service. There is a link to buy their statues in the description below. You can use the code EXTREME20. Now, as a disclosure, obviously I get a kickback. If you buy that, it doesn't cost you anything extra. However, I've been dealing with Spec Fiction before they even had a website, and I've probably paid them hundreds of thousands over the years, and I'm always a happy customer, so I appreciate that. But is it worth it? You know, I think it is, because the original Doomsday statue, the one you saw at the beginning, that one flips. When the economy was well, that flipped for $2,500 to $3,000, and that had an edition size of $999, I believe. Now, while this is from a different storyline, it has a lot of that same panache, if you will. So I think this is a really solid statue. While the Dark Knight metal characters don't sell as well, I think at a minimum, even in the current economic times, this is a 3 out of 5 for value, meaning you could make your money back. At a maximum, you could probably make some profit. I honestly think if the economy was doing better right now, the statue market is taking a huge hit, it would be a 4 out of 5. So if this was like 2 years ago, this would probably be a 4 out of 5 on value. Does it have the X factor? Is he a 5 out of 5 statue? Well, I'm not going to answer that for you today because, like I said, I'm going to do a comparison video for the original Doomsday and see which one is better. But you can answer that. Throw that down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinion. Plus, that enters you into our next giveaway. We're shooting for 40,000 subs. As we try to grow this channel, we like to reward you guys for watching and subscribing. So because of that, every 5,000 milestone when it comes to subscribers, we give away a couple $1,000s worth of statues. We've actually given away over 20 statues. To win one was easy. First, you gotta be subscribed to the channel. You'll get bell notifications when videos drop. Each video that drops, you wanna make a comment on those videos. We pick a random video, we give away statues based on a comment. You can say whatever you want. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in. I say that every time, but I really mean it. Great piece. I'm scared to death to move it. I am gonna put a back brace on, just in case. Especially after unboxing all that other shit today. But if you want to see what it looks like, check out the links in the description below for social media, Spec Fiction, all that stuff. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.